be honest. I don't know that I've ever seen this, and I don't know how this can be a ground rule double.
I don't know how it's scored, and I don't know how you place the base runner. I know that there is umpire's discretion that comes into play.
They're going to throw off his back foot. He lofts one for Weidemeyer. And a flag flies in. Interference for an Aggie upset win. And it's good. He got it.
Is intercepted. Micah Hyde's going to take it to the end zone. Off the hands of Tyreek Hill and into the hands of Micah Hyde for a Buffalo touchdown.
This is Interesting to See, your daily sports podcast about news, narratives, takes, and gambling. What a weekend in sports. I don't have an adequate amount of time to do this in a reasonable fashion, so we're just going to crush some stuff and save some stuff for later in the week. Highlights where the Rays got screwed. We'll get to that in a little bit, of course. And finally, wow, if only a team from Boston could catch a break, they might be able to win a championship. They could just catch a break. Other highlights, Texas A&M upsets Alabama, and the Bills annihilate the Chiefs. But let's start our Monday morning with a bit of racism, shall we? Yeah. So it surfaced probably Thursday. I saw it on Twitter. I thought about doing it in the show on Friday, but I didn't want to publicly accuse one of the most prominent NFL figures alive of racism without having my ducks in a row. It then became far more prominent Friday afternoon, and then now it was everywhere on Saturday and Sunday. NBC is the company that's not really letting it go. They are making everyone talk about it. ESPN has, of course, talked about it as well. What happened was, in 2011, Jon Gruden sent an email. This is when Jon was at ESPN, in which he described DeMaurice Smith's lip size and mocked that. That was leaked recently, and it was leaked per the investigation that the NFL is doing into the conduct from the Washington football team. So a couple things. We'll just get the conspiracy parts of this out of the way. That was leaked, and that was leaked on purpose. Somebody wanted to get Jon. He did say the racist stuff. Now, from a legal standpoint, it's going to get complicated on what happens now, because the Raiders and the league are in a weird spot from disciplining Jon Gruden, because he definitely said that. It was obvious. They did issue a statement. We're going to read that here in a second, but it's important to note that Jon Gruden was not an employee at that time. He was an employee of ESPN. He's not an employee of ESPN anymore. So here's a statement from Raiders owner Mark Davis. The content of an email regarding DeMaurice Smith from Jon Gruden when he worked at ESPN 10 years ago is disturbing and not what the Raiders stand for, which is true. The Raiders are very famously the best sports franchise in world history at inclusion. Like, they have broken incredible barriers. Continuing, we were first made aware of this email late yesterday by a reporter and are reviewing it along with other materials provided to us by the NFL today. We are addressing the matter with Coach Gruden and have no further comment at this time. And the Raiders lost to the Bears. The Bears are not good, but they're not like super bad. But the Raiders lost in a way that looked like a bunch of guys were making business decisions and had business effort. Like, they're playing for their contract, not their team. I don't know how you could play for them. It's going to be weird. Can't fire him, can you? Can you suspend him? Do they have the legal grounds to suspend him? It's just an ugly situation. Incredibly racist thing for Jon to say. Like, how can you talk to draft prospects now? Like, it's going to be a weird future moving forward. All right, let's talk about the fun football stuff. So yesterday was one of the craziest NFL days I can remember, maybe ever, and it was preceded by one of the craziest college football Saturdays that I can remember, maybe ever. I do want to toot my own horn a little bit. I did suggest that Penn State and Texas would whoop ass in their games, and they did. I underestimated, however, just how bad Spencer Rattler was and how done Lincoln Riley was with him. Otherwise, Texas would have whooped Oklahoma's ass. My bad. Penn State quarterback Sean Clifford got hurt, and their backup is a super-duper backup-y, and I suspect he'll be transferring to Notre Dame any week now when they get a 5-star recruit in there to replace him next year. But I guess we'll just go through some of the highlights. I mean, you can Google the scores yourself. The biggest thing that happened was Texas A&M beat Alabama, which is interesting because A&M got wrecked by Arkansas and lost a close one to Mississippi State. It's Alabama's first loss of the season, and it was their first loss, I think, in the Nick Saban era, except for his first year, that they lost on the road to an unranked opponent. A&M is, of course, ranked now. Nebraska, they scare Michigan, but they hurt themselves and fumble trying to go for a game-winning drive on a sneak. Michigan survives despite not really being that good. Penn State quarterback gets hurt. They were dicing Iowa up pretty good. It was a fun game for Iowa. Iowa's super overrated. They're number 2 right now. There's no chance they're the second best team in the country. Georgia annihilates Auburn, who is now unranked. A most interesting story for me, Wake Forest is undefeated, and they have 6 wins. 6. Like, it's not like they're winning conference games now. Not that beating Syracuse is super impressive, but it's getting pretty weird out there for Wake Forest. Ohio State seems to be mad. They're crushing the bad teams in the Big Ten like Maryland, but to be fair, everybody does that. Maryland just got wrecked by someone else. I forget, was it Penn State or Iowa? Like, they suck. Nothing really to say about that. As far as narratives go, the college football narrative that we can all thank the Lord and Savior for that is now gone is BYU got beat at home by Boise State. They're ranked 19th. They can kiss their playoff chances goodbye. And so the college football playoff lives to survive another week as the best system to determine the national champion. However, Cincinnati, they destroyed Temple or somebody, so they're still around. All right. In professional football on Sunday, there were 11 extra points missed. 11. In the Bengals-Packers game, there were 6 consecutive missed field goals. The Bengals tried like a 50-something yarder to win. The Packers got the ball where they kicked it. They gained like 6 yards, and then the Packers tried one. And then they went to overtime, and they each missed one in overtime. It was incredible. But then eventually, Mason Crosby, one of the best kickers in NFL history, perhaps. I don't know. He made a field goal, and the Packers end up winning that game. It was just, the narrative is like how crazy everything was yesterday. In Urban Meyer Watch, the Jaguars got crushed. Nothing interesting there. The game that everyone's going to be talking about will be Browns-Chargers because something really kind of cool happened there. I've seen teams letting a player score to get the ball back. The Chargers were down by 1. They were inside the 5-yard line. Then they got the first down to the 3-yard line. And they could have just taken a knee and kicked the field goal as time expired to win. However, instead of taking a knee, they ran a play. The Browns players, including, I think, Ronnie Harrison and Myles Garrett, literally picked up Austin Eckler and put him into the end zone so they could get the ball back. It was an analytics wet dream, Browns and Chargers, and who knows how good any of those things actually are. Justin Herbert will be considered widely as one of, if not the best quarterbacks in professional football after his performance yesterday. Also interesting, Big Ben Roethlisberger, after playing like literally your Uncle Randy for 3 weeks in the NFL season, played out of his mind and hit a bunch of deep throws, and then he was really smug in his post-game comments where he said something along the lines, yeah, we challenged the offensive line. I thought that they could be better in the run game and the pass game, and I thought they got that done. Ben, you're fat. You suck. I don't know how you beat the Broncos, but it worked out. The Saints beat Washington. Jameis Winston is a roller coaster of emotion. It's honestly incredible. The Texans almost beat the Patriots. The Patriots are bad. Yeah, I think that I don't know if it's a rookie quarterback versus just a replacement level quarterback, but I think the Patriots thinking they could have won all those Super Bowls with any quarterback is now starting to smell like bullshit. The Lions and the Vikings game was fascinating. The Lions, they just try their damnedest, and I'm a Lions fan, full disclosure. They kept it close. I can't believe they did that well against the Vikings offense. Vikings were missing Dalvin Cook, but even without Dalvin Cook in previous weeks, they've been electric. The Lions really shut them down. They forced some turnovers. They looked really, really good. They are trailing by 7. The Vikings are trying to run out the clock. And on 3rd and 5, the Lions stop the Vikings on a run, and then linebacker Jalen Reeves-Maybin rips the ball out of Alexander Madison's hands inside the 20-yard line. And the Lions score a touchdown 2 plays later. And then they go for 2. They go for the win. 40 seconds left now. And the Vikings go down and kick a 55-yard field goal to win. Lions are the first team in NFL history to give up 2 50-yard field goals or longer to lose a game as time expires. First time that's ever happened twice in the same season to one opponent. However, what really happened from the Lions game, what everybody's going to be talking about, is this Dan Campbell sound clip where he was so sad for his players he cried at the press conference, and everybody likes it. So this clip has been out now for 12 hours. It has 1.6 million views.
You know, and there again, credit Minnesota, but, you know, we made the one mistake that cost us, you know, and so ultimately, you know, we didn't do enough to win, but I was proud of them, and I love the fight they have in them, and I love the grit.
Yeah, so Dan Campbell is charming the internet all over the world today. That's going to be talked about. So there will be, you can narrative watch, you're going to find people that accuse him for being soft, for having emotion, but if you look at his pecs and his delts, I highly doubt that he's soft. Okay, let's talk about some baseball. We talked about football. Oh, yeah, the Chiefs are not good at football anymore. Bills are really good. Chiefs are not good. We can discuss that later, but and I called that. They just don't play well. They're just not, I mean, sometimes it is what it looks like. They're just not good anymore. They'll figure it out. I mean, they have to regress. It's going to happen. But we got to talk about some baseball. All right, so this is what happened in the Rays and Sox game. If you weren't watching it and you were paying attention to football like a good American, the Rays and the Sox were tied. It was the 12th or the 13th or the 19th or something. It was very late in the game, and I don't know who it was. It was some Rays player almost hit a home run. It goes off of the wall, right, in right field in Fenway Park, right where the bullpen is, like deep right field. And if you've ever seen Fenway Park, the fence out there is about armpit high. Like, it's not a big wall. So this is what happens. The ball hits about shin high up on the wall. It bounces off the ground very fast, and then it bounces off of a player, Hunter Renfroe for the Red Sox, off of his knee, and then it goes back over the wall into the bullpen. So if the ball bounces off the ground first and then into the bullpen, that's a ground rule double. However, if the ball bounces off of the ground or the field of play, which is the wall, and then off of a player, that's also a ground rule double unless the player had a chance to play the ball. Now, this is where this gets this funky, because Hunter Renfroe looked like a total buffoon and it just hit him in the knee. It bounced off the wall. It wasn't incidental at all. And if a ball hits a player and then goes over the fence without touching the ground, that's a home run. So this is allegedly a ground rule double, which the rule is sort of interpretable and uninterpretable. It's kind of a weird gray area, and then we find out that it's umpire discretion. So, as one tweet put it, the umps are just like deciding the fate of baseball on vibes. So they got absolutely screwed by a very stupid rule because Hunter Renfroe can't play baseball very well. He is, of course, a C+ outfielder, but wow, if Boston could just catch a break, they might have a championship team. The big thing in college football, so I've been saving this. We'll do this maybe one or two stories after this one, but the big fight on Twitter in college football is over field rushing. Now, there were two field rushings that had people in a tizzy, one in a positive manner and one in a negative manner. The positive manner one is that UMass, they rushed the field after beating UConn. Is that a big upset? No. UMass and UConn are widely considered the worst football programs in maybe college football history. UMass's football program chose to go Division I specifically so they could get their ass kicked by big teams and collect the paycheck. They just lost to Coastal Carolina 53-3. They lost to Toledo 45-7. They beat UConn for their first victory of the season. That's to Pittsburgh 51-7. They scored 20 points on Southern Illinois, though. Big deal for UMass. I think that's a good deal. However, later that day, the Hawkeyes, Iowa, rushed the field after beating Penn State. Penn State was an underdog, according to Vegas, and they were ranked one position lower. And they're a conference opponent that they seem to play all the time. I don't know. Iowa rushing the field is a bad look. Imagine the shoe were on the other foot as a college football fan. Does Penn State rush the field against Iowa in the same situation? I don't think they do. So I started to think, when is it okay to rush the field? Because people are really fussy about this. There's one group of people that let the kids have fun, and then there's another group of people act like you've been there before. For me, rushing the field against Penn State shows very clearly that you consider Penn State to be a tier higher than you. There are only two times when you need to rush the field. A huge accomplishment, or B, you beat your rival. And it has to be an arch rival. For example, no disrespect to Penn State or Notre Dame, you don't have an arch rival. This is like the Iron Bowl. This is like the Civil War. This is like, I forget what it's called in Washington, the Apple Cup, backyard brawl, like an arch rival. Ohio State, Michigan, arch rival, you can storm the field. Huge accomplishment, you can storm the field. If Iowa considers holding its home court a huge accomplishment against a conference opponent, I'm kind of on board with the internet trolls, the arbiters of fun. I'm not mad, but it is a bad look, in my opinion. That's just my take. It's a loud and clear statement. It's a white flag from Iowa saying Penn State, Michigan State, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, those are real programs. We are a B+ program. That's what it says to me, and I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to apologize for that take. If you woke up this morning and saw in sports that peanut butter and jelly was trending, I'll tell you why. Because during an hour-and-a-half weather delay, nobody had anything to talk about. Apparently, Bills and Chiefs players were complaining about the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that they were given by stadium staff because, quote, there's too much peanut butter on the sandwiches at 70-30, and that's unacceptable. Excellent television. Poor TV studio crew had to vamp. It was pretty hilarious watching them just crush these peanut butter sandwiches. And what is the appropriate ratio? Peanut butter and jelly. I think that's the important thing. Monday Night Football coming up tonight. It's Colts and Ravens. We're going to just discuss this. We're going to discuss this in depth as the year goes on. The Ravens are favored by 7. The Eagles traded Carson Wentz to the Colts for a conditional first-round pick. So if Carson Wentz plays 75% of the snaps this season, the Eagles get the Colts' first-round pick in 2022. However, if he plays 75% or fewer, the Eagles get the Colts' second-round pick. The Colts suck. Carson Wentz is bad at football. At a certain point, the Colts have to purposely bench him so that they don't hand the Eagles a top 10 pick, right? Because the Eagles have the first-round pick of the Dolphins because they wanted Jalen Waddle. And they could have the first-round pick of the Colts. If the season ended right now because the Colts are bad, the Eagles would have 3 top 10 picks. The Colts have to bench him, right? Because we're about 5 to 6 games through the season, depending on when the team's bye is. At a certain point, you got to bench him, right? I mean, you have to eat it. You got to bench him. I mean, you cannot be that stupid or that vain, I would imagine. We're less than 4 days away from the start of the NHL season. The NBA season is coming around next week as well. We'll be previewing and tell you what Vegas says. We will also, I guess, make predictions. I don't know. We'll look into the narratives that are on the way from that. We're going to finish up with this story. It's something that I literally cannot believe is happening. John Cusack got in a fight in person in Chicago with one of the Barstool Sports people because the Barstool Sports guys called him like a fake fan. And then Patricia Arquette, the actress, had John Cusack's back on the internet. It is honestly becoming hilarious what Barstool Sports is doing to people. But that being said, at a certain point, they're going to piss off like a pro athlete, and one of these dudes like that is trying to make bro-y content for the internet is going to get his ass whipped by a guy like John Cusack. John Cusack looks pretty fired up to me, but now here's Patricia Arquette complaining about Barstool Chicago, and this is happening on the internet. John Cusack has 2 million followers. Oh, man. I don't know. What happened in the White Sox game? Let's do baseball on Tuesdays. Let's find out. White Sox, Astros. The Sox destroyed the Astros. So maybe Chicago people just want to prove who's more mad, I suppose. That's going to do it. Like, rate, review, subscribe. I appreciate it. I'll be back and better than ever tomorrow.